Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Tonight Show podcast for today, the 5th of May, because it is, of course, the very special weekend this weekend with the King Charles III's coronation, and also, of course, a review of the 2023 local council elections across England and the UK as well. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter and my co-host, Zach Chambers, around all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Well, it's important, I think, we start with the local elections because from what I've heard, Rishi Sunak's local election campaign has not gone off very well at all. From what we understand, Conservative losses, Labour gains in key areas. It has been pretty interesting. From obviously Essex results, we know that Basildon Council is still being held by the Tories. There has also been a loss in Thurrock as well. A Conservative councillor there, I think, has lost their seat. I think the leader of the council lost their seat up there, from what I understand as well. But yes, Labour and Liberal Democrats have taken big seats today from the Tories as Labour won control of Swindon, Plymouth, Medway, which is in Brighton, and Stoke-on-Trent, a former Labour stronghold, and the Liberal Democrats have won control of 5 councils from the Conservatives, including Windsor and Maidenhead. The elections are the first big test of Rishi Sunak's electoral popularity since he became Prime Minister. The final results are coming in on Friday evening, but so far the Conservatives have lost, wait for it, a control of 40 councils. Education Minister Robert Alphen said this year's election was always going to be difficult for his party as well. It was also announced that Conservatives lost seats in the key battleground areas such as Peterborough and Basildon as well. Also some Leave areas, I think Plymouth as well, all being lost by the Conservatives. Zach, I have to say, for Rishi Sunak, a bit of a very underwhelming performance for his party at the local elections this year.
I wouldn't call it underwhelming. I would call it humiliating, more like, to be fair. For most of them, it's been a good night for all the parties, except the Conservatives. If you're Labour, you're going to be very happy. If you're Liberal Democrat, you're going to be very happy with results. If you're, the Greens, you're going to be very happy with the results. If you're some of the Independents, you'll be iffy, but okay with some of them as well. If you're UKIP, then you're not going to be happy because all your seats have been wiped away. Whatever 7 councillors that you had left now gone into existence, and boom, off you're out. You're non-existent anymore, and you're not representative. But yeah, it's been a humiliating night for the Conservatives. They've just passed the 1,000 seats lost mark, with about 3 councils left to declare. But yeah, well, the writing was on the wall pretty early. When we first got the results from Sunderland, the writing was on pretty wall early as well. I mean, they gained a few seats in Sunderland. Labour did as well, which is obviously a red wall sort of area. And then Stoke-on-Trent came in. Now, this has been an overall control for a little bit of while, but the Labour gained that one back. That's a traditional red wall seat that they've need to regain to win an election. They managed to do that as well. They did that as well. And then the losses kept on coming. You said as well, Swindon is a major loss to Conservatives. I mean, that's been Conservatives for how many years? And yeah, it's that now Labour took back control. They've had a massive gain there. Tory voters deciding to stay home pretty much on that one, or switch directly to the Labour Party. It is a big loss. It is a huge loss. Another one that's just come out today, South Derbyshire, that's also now under Labour control as well. It's a big loss there for the Conservatives. We know that there's some. Let me just go through some of the key areas. Actually, I'm going to try, if my computer's fast enough as well. I've run it on the background today because it's been ridiculously slow. But at the moment, I mean, this is slightly out of date from the Guardian. But all I know is that Conservatives are gone past 1,000 seats losses. Greg Hands was expectation management, saying that this is where they're going to be. They've gone beyond expectation management, so they've actually humiliated themselves. So this is brilliant, Charlie. I mean, if we look at what's happening going on here, let's look at the gains of Labour first of all. As well, if we go to the councils of interest, Swindon, like I said as well, big showing there for the Conservatives. Not the Conservatives. Dearie me, I was going to say big showing for Labour there. They have gone up. They've overtook the Conservatives to gain the council. Conservatives wiped 22 seats, Labour on 33. Bracknell Forest, it was a massive Conservative majority before yesterday. Now been taken over by Labour. It's a massive swing there as well in Bracknell Forest. It's a humiliation for the Tories there. It's absolutely peak Highland in terms of the Brexit vote there as well. Another one that I want to look out for, Stratford upon Avon. This is, if I remember correctly, Nadine Zahari's home constituency as well. The tax issue has been big there, and it resulted in Liberal Democrats, although Labour have not got a single seat there, the Conservative vote has gone to the Liberal Democrats, and it can show you there. They are now in control of Stratford upon Avon. High Peak is another one. It's the sort of area that Labour should be winning to get a majority. That was no overall control. Now in the hands of Labour with 29 seats and the Conservatives on 10. Middlesbrough is another area where Labour really need to be performing. Now they've been having a little bit of struggles recently in sort of like the T size area, but Middlesbrough is a key victory for them. Now that's gone from no overall control to Labour. And the big one, I think, today, Charlie, that has been historic, is in Mid Suffolk, where the Greens finally have overall control of a council in England for the first time. Mid Suffolk went from no overall control to a Green Party victory. It's a major achievement for the Green Parties, and fair play to them because it's a massive, massive victory. While Conservatives only left with 6 seats on the council there as well. But let's look at the areas where the Conservatives Conservatives did have a few good areas, actually, to be fair. Slough, they've turned that from Labour to no overall control. The Slough council there has not been run very, very well. It went bust. It rose council tax by 10%. Obviously the residents and the constituents there were really reacting to that as well. 16 seats gained in Slough. As well, and you can see as well there's some areas where the Conservatives did do slightly better. Harlow, Basildon is one area as well. I should point out, well, they did actually make some gains in that area, but Slough was the biggest area as well. Southend as well, they were gave 1 seat as well in that area. Epsom, they did gain a seat there. It's not really much in, to be fair. Guildford, they did gain a few seats there. Test Valley as well, and Torbay is one area where they're going to be really happy. It's Hertfordshire as well. Few gains there in the Cotswolds as well. Leicester, I believe, is another area where the Conservatives did well. That was being Labour still controlled Leicestershire, Leicester Council there, but they've had significant losses. I imagine there's a factor to do with the heavily minority vote there that sort of swings Conservative raising recently is as well, which is probably why the Conservatives done better in Leicester than what people have anticipated as well. But the other areas is like, look at the Labour gains. Look at the Labour gains in these areas like Stoke-on-Trent, East Staffordshire as well, across picking up votes across the East and West Midlands as well. Big wins as well, I think, for Labour are in Thanet, Dover as well. The Dover is an interesting one where they've actually gone from stopping the boats to stopping the Tories from winning there as well. Dover is a big immigration background. I imagine the sort of asylum seeker hotels has sort of, held into that feeling where they don't want to vote Conservatives. So it looks like Dover's gone from stopping the boats to stopping the Tories, and they've actually loaded in Labour. Which is brave considering that one as well in that area. But also Thanet Dover, big victory of the night as well, I think as well, is in Gillingham, where Medway Council, which has been Conservative controlled for years, has gone to Labour. It was a big victory in Medway for the Labour there. It's a huge result as well, and they should be thoroughly impressive stuff there as well. Moving on, I want to say as well to the Liberal Democrats, where this is where the gains they made as well. The big one, I think, the spectacular gain they made overnight was Windsor and Maidenhead Royal as well. They had a massive Liberal Democrat gain, overturned the Conservative council there, and that should be right for the Conservatives because that is Theresa May's seat as well. It's an affluent middle class Tory area that is traditional. That could be a blue wall seat that could be one to watch in the future as well. They also gained West Berkshire and Darkin, Hertfordshire. They also made massive improvements in Lewis in East Sussex as well. Major improvements there as well. I should point out as well. Tunbridge Wells, they gained some seats there, 6 seats there. Chichester was where one that they gained control of as well. Horsham is another big area as well. Stratford upon Avon, like I mentioned, as well. Rutland, a good result for them is there. And look at the seats gained in South Hams, 9 seat gains for Liberal Democrats. Mid Devon took control of that one. Incredible job there for them as well. And in the Greens area, like I said as well, I want to mention here, Mid Suffolk. They are the first time ever a Greens have taken control of a council in England. 34 seats now, 12 seat gains in Mid Suffolk as well. They've also gained heavily in East Hertfordshire. This is an interesting one to pronounce. In Worcester as well, and the other big one, I think, if I remember rightly, as well. Yeah, Worcester was the big game as well. Whitehaven as well, 3 seats gained there as well. And regarding there is like Lewis as well, 9 seats gained there. They also gained Weldon as well. Folkestone Hythe is where they really made progress in that area. But goodness me, this has been a bad night for the Conservatives, no doubt about it. Over 1,000 seats lost. If you're ever any other party apart from the Conservatives, then you'll be pleased with the progress you made. I just want to talk about my area as well, where I mean, like in Basildon, I mean, like they made good areas.
I was going to say, has a local MP lost his seat by any chance in Malden?
No, I mean, so to be fair, let me talk about what's going on. Obviously, no one's lost their seats and anything. John Wick still doing his seats, but the Liberal Democrats have made good. And obviously, going from experience, the Liberal Democrats have made gains in the Malden Council. 6 seats they've gained as well, and Labour have representation for the first time in Malden Council as well, which is really important for them. 1 seat gained in sort of the Burnham area as well, but 6 gains. Liberal Democrats, including my area as well, I should point out, as well, where we knocked out 2 Tories there for 2 Liberal Democrats. But yeah, no, it remains in overall control. But Independents winning out, Liberal Democrats winning out, and Conservatives some losses there. Independents and Liberal Dems were the big winners in my area as well. But yeah, I mean, it's been a terrible election for the Conservatives overall. Over 1,000 seats lost. Many councils gone. The reaction of the party chairman was, well, we were expecting this. What about Labour not making progress in some areas as well? The thing is about Greg Hags, about the Conservative Party chairman, is he always brings that note around saying that Labour left with 0 money. By the end of tonight, I suspect the note will be bigger and will say that, I'm sorry, Greg, but we don't have any councillors left. Rather than the Treasury note, it's going to be the councillors' note saying we have no councillors left. Well, it's going to feel like that in Conservative lands tonight. Big losses, big gains for Labour as well. Big gains for Liberal Democrats. Big gains for Greens. It's been a good night for everybody apart from the Conservatives. Let's just sum that up in simple terms as well. So yeah, it's been a dramatic night. A lot of results, and yeah, I think Labour is going to be ones. Everyone apart from Labour are going to feel happy with results tonight.
And it will be a dramatic night for Boris Johnson, once again at the scene of another controversy, this time not wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah, there's some video on social media showing that he wasn't wearing a seatbelt as well. And by the way, that's the Rishi Sunak's done that once. So I imagine Boris Johnson will hopefully get fined. I mean, what is it with Boris Johnson rule breaking these days? He's quite good for doing that sort of thing, as he's been doing for the past year as well. But yeah, I mean, Boris Johnson is a liability. We know that, and it just proves that's an example of him not wearing a seatbelt. Is an example of that as well.
Well, it's a very interesting one, isn't it? Given Rishi Sunak got fined for that, so two people could be criminally charged. Oh no! Certainly won't go down well on your CV. But this is what Keir Starmer had to say, the leader of the opposition and the current Labour Party leader, when he visited Chatham today to speak to supporters after his local election success in key areas. Have a listen to this.
Blew the doors off. The first victory here since 1998. And an amazing set of results. I didn't doubt it when I saw the energy and the commitment and the case that we were making. But what a fantastic result here in Medway. And we're having fantastic results across the country. Plymouth, what a night they've had in Plymouth. And then Stoke. And up to Middlesbrough, all the places that we need to win the battlegrounds. And make no mistake, we are on course for a Labour majority at the next general election.
Well, yes, that was Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer addressing a Medway audience there today in Chatham, announcing the big wins that he had in the local elections. Please comment down below, guys, what you make to the 2023 local election results. Do you agree with them? Do you think the Conservatives are in big trouble? Do you think there needs to be a general election even sooner than next year? Please comment down below. Because, from what I'm understanding, things are not looking good for the Conservative Party as well. Right now, it's time for the next part of the show. And we're now going to be talking all about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, getting a mention on my show tonight. It's been a while since we've spoken about this. Not much has been happening. But we've had a significant development over the last few days. Now, there has been a report of an airstrike attack above the residence of President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Yes, the Kremlin. There's been reported that a drone attack happened. We still don't know much about this. Who caused it? Could it have been Russia? Could it have been Ukraine? Both sides seem to blame each other. But Zach, what did you make to this? This could be a big turning point in the war here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see this happen above the Kremlin. So let me just explain what happened. There was a drone, as you said, there was a drone caught on camera that was basically heading the way towards the Kremlin. Now, air defense had managed to get that just in time before it hit anything on the Kremlin, but you could see some of the smoke bellowing out of the Kremlin a little bit. There was two drones from what I've read. They both avoided the Kremlin building, but it's interesting enough to see that over the Kremlin. Now, what that actually shows, in my view, actually, is that the Kremlin building is not very that secure, because a drone nearly came in to destroy that building. Now, in terms of who's been blamed for this, obviously Russia blamed the Ukraine for this. Ukraine have said this is not their responsibility as well. Russians said that Ukraine tried to do a terrorist attack on Vladimir Putin personally. Now, Putin was not in the building when this happened. Obviously, drone has happened. But I still come to the belief that, this is probably a false flag that the Russians have probably set up to make them gather support in the country. That it looks like it's starting to wane a little bit in terms of what's happening. So to pump up the fake narrative that their country is under attack, they're going to do a drone. This probably looks like a fake drone attack to make it look like something happened to them, rather than themselves being responsible for the drone incident. But yeah, this is basically a distraction in many ways. It's a distraction based on the fact that so far the Ukrainians are conducting their counteroffensive in Ukraine at the moment, and some big developments today, Charlie, as well. The Wagner and the Wagner group are going to pull out of Bakhmut because of a lack of ammunition, according to their leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, or whatever his name is. As well, who launched a stunning attack, by the way, on the Russian defense minister and the chief of armed forces for not supporting the Wagner group, giving the ammunition to the Wagner group, enough ammunition. And that's what the Wagner chief has blamed as well. They blamed the Russian generals for losses that they have suffered in Ukraine. So it looks like they've actually run out of ammunition in Bakhmut. that they've had to pull out. They're going to have to pull out the area, which is a stunning development, you have to say, given the fact they've been constantly attack that area for the last few months now, and they can't even get the area. The fact is they've tried to take it, and they haven't even had success there. It's just completely stunning in many ways. So yeah, I think it's a massive development on the front that Bakhmut could well just be saved by Ukraine as well. But yeah, they're pulling out there in a few days' time. In the Zaporizhzhia area as well, it looks like the Russian installed governor there, the one that seems to be in the illegally occupied area of Zaporizhzhia as well, which Russia claimed to annex. Then some of the governors are actually evacuating some of their citizens as well. It looks like the Ukrainians are about to attack some of the areas in Zaporizhzhia potentially as well. So it's it's planned to evacuate 70,000 people in occupied Zaporizhzhia. So it looks like the Ukrainians are going to make a good effort to try and take the majority of the area that they lost there as well. So I have to say, no one's believing the Russian version of events so far in terms of the drone attack as well. And did you see, by the way, the video where in Turkey there was a Russian minister or
yes,
someone
I saw that. I saw that.
Stole a Ukrainian flag in plain sight right in front of the Ukrainian delegates, and completely got owned by the Ukrainians. And I don't know who the bloke was that managed to catch the flag back, but bravo. I mean, that was brave, taking off a Russian as well. I mean, the bloke who did that was who stole the flag was a bit of a prat, wasn't he? I mean, he can't really be doing that sort of thing in many ways as well. But yeah, I mean, I have to say, this has not been a good week for Russia. The leader of the Wagner group pulling out of Bakhmut as well. The Zaporizhzhia authorities evacuating their citizens because the Ukrainian counteroffensive is about to begin there. It looks like they're going to retake the area as well. There's been a Kherson. There's a 56-hour curfew as well in Kherson as well. Kherson 56 as well and yeah, it's not looking good for the Russians in Ukraine so far as well, in that front as well. So yeah, lots of developments there and not positive for Russia. I mean, no one's believed their fake attack on the Kremlin. I don't think anyone's going to believe the narrative as well that they're winning on the battlefield at the moment.
Yeah, it's not ideal when the Russian forces are just not doing anything. So that all I can say is the war in Ukraine is still a bit more developments happening, but still at the moment a stalemate in certain areas. That's all the latest news out on the war in Ukraine. Now it's time to talk about the big question now, which is a very big question for tonight's show. I'm going to be talking about the high street on the show. Now, if you've seen on the news this week, local news, some national local papers have reported this, national papers as well. They're reporting that many stores are facing closure. Now, we know B&M have announced store closures and relocations. We also know that a former company I used to work for, Marks and Spencer, have also announced closures to some of their stores across the UK as well. This will impact staff, redundancies will be happening, and many people don't know whether some of the staff could be relocated to other shops across the country or whether some will be made redundant fully. This is hitting the high street. Now, a lot of this is blamed on the cost of living. It's blamed on rising energy prices. There's a lot to basically believe what is happening. So the question I have tonight is, do you think the high street is starting to suffer as a result of the cost of living crisis? This is a big question, Zach, I have to answer. What we have to answer tonight. With Marks and Spencer and B&M announcing a lot of store closures and closing down sales, do you think the high street is at risk of potential workforce shortages?
I think it's been in risk for quite a while now, to be fair. We know that online shopping has sort of become a bit of a phenomenon. Everyone's using technology these days. Well, not everyone, but most people are using technology these days to sort of buy their shopping, buy their clothes, buy their whatever products or items or whatever they need. So it's contributed to the decline, I think, of the high street. But yeah, I kind of do feel that, with technology, online uses and everything like that as well. And I think the pandemic was a big hit as well for like the industry as well. The COVID stuff, there is accelerating trends going on, I think, in the high street, where people, don't want to really use it that much or using it less as well, mate. But it's interesting enough, I think, as well, like when you look at like what's going on, especially in the high streets as well, like people tend to like shop on a little bit more, on online and all that sort of thing as well, rather than want to go out. They just tend to like do it cheap on there. But yeah, I think as well, it's the way people work have changed as well. Everyone's got like different warehouses, all that sort of thing as well. So it's a bit of a different sort of vibe that people want to take as well. But yeah, I mean, job losses are all a big, huge thing as well. There's those that want to shut shop as well, that just move jobs around and all that sort of thing. So it has a material impact as well on what's going on. And yeah, I think, I think COVID is faster than the trends, but I think that trend's been going on a little bit while. So yeah, obviously, it could be down to policies as well. I mean, like there's been obviously talks about business rates and all that sort of thing that could contribute as well. The government have suggested probably like online digital taxes and all that sort of thing in the past, but I don't even know. They're still debating that sort of thing as well. It's not really like we've not seen an impact on it. I mean, Amazon and the likes as well make all these record profits and that sort of thing as well. So to be fair, it's not really making the impact I think it really, it really makes at the moment, Charlie, because it's just not making too much of a difference in terms of like what's happening. The accelerating trends are that the shops are closing on the high street because COVID in the past and online shopping, all that sort of thing as well. It made the trend go. I think personally for me, go a bit faster.
Been a lot of like, especially as well, deliveries going up as well, especially after seeing like pandemic, the coronavirus leading many people obviously that didn't shop before to go online and do online deliveries. We saw a massive rise in online orders from like to Tesco, Asda, Waitrose, Sainsbury's, all them big supermarket giants announcing them. So it's very, very interesting to see the rise in that. But just in general with these other shops, I think it's becoming an issue now that a lot of staff are being laid off because they just haven't got the time. So please comment down below, guys, what you make to all the latest news there on that particular issue. Now it's time to move on and do a little bit of a sports update now. Right. Now, we're going to talk all about the football first, the Premier League. Yes, as you guys know, I have heard some of the results this week. There has been lots of drama, managerial departures. Sam Allardyce now comes in as the latest manager of Leeds United after Javi Garcia was sacked as well. 2 years ago, that was when he last managed the club. Here we go. We've got so many results to go through. We'll do some of the latest ones. So last results that we had were Wednesday. Liverpool beat Fulham 1-0. Manchester City beat West Ham 3-0. Brighton scored late on to beat Manchester United in added time 1-0. But also other highlights included as well. Bournemouth beating Leeds 4-1. Liverpool beating Tottenham 4-3. And Newcastle beating Southampton 3-1, which means Southampton's fate in the Premier League is now looking very slim indeed. Zach, what do you make to the latest Premier League results?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, Charlie. It was a bit like, bit of a quite a hectic midweek of action football sports as well. I mean, the surprising result, I think, was yesterday, actually. The Brighton winning 1-0 against Manchester United. It was a 98th minute penalty that saved the match for Brighton. As well, we saw that Luke Shaw. I mean, I think it was Luke Shaw that had his handballed it in the penalty slot. I mean, it was easy handball, but what a costly way for United to lose that match. It was really poor to have a penalty like that in the 98th minute as well. It was terrible defending wise. But they weren't on it all match, I don't think. Like when you look at it, they've sort of struggled to get possession as well. It was at times a bit more on and off in some parts. But yeah, it was a bit bad night for Man United yesterday as well. Better nights though for Liverpool, 1-2 against Fulham. I mean, that's quite a significant top of the mid table clash in many ways as well for Europe. Liverpool will be happy they won 1-0 there. The other one as well, Manchester City now still leading the title race. I mean, getting that point ahead was crucial to that one and winning 3-0 actually as well, including Erling Haaland scoring a record-breaking Premier League goal, the most in one season, and Pep Guardiola getting Pep Guardiola's 1,000th Premier League goal as a manager for Manchester City. Incredible records broken. There definitely for Manchester City, their season keeps on giving as well. Arsenal, by the way, won 3-1 against Chelsea, who, by the way, have not had a single win. Every game under Frank Lampard so far has been loss. Chelsea are in turmoil. They really are. I mean, there's a lack of passion on the pitch. There's a lack of performance. There's just lack of ability. There's lack of creativity. And they are getting humiliated. Tomorrow they've got a match against Bournemouth, which could spring up a shock in my view, actually, because Bournemouth have been on a roll quite recently as well. And this is where vulnerability could come to Chelsea. They are outside the top 10. I think they're 12. And Bournemouth could well go ahead of them in the table tomorrow, if they're not already. They are at the moment. If you look at sort of where they are in the table at the moment, Bournemouth are on 39 points, so the same as Chelsea. So tomorrow is going to be a big match, because if Bournemouth win, they go ahead of Chelsea in the table. I mean, and Chelsea dropped to 13th. I mean, who would have predicted that a few months ago, where Chelsea would have been 13th in the table? It just shows the dire situation they have. And look at that. 4 of the 5 games have been losses so far. And that's all been under Frank Lampard so far. I mean, there's just no leadership whatsoever going on. I mean, it's been a terrible, terrible run for Chelsea. And it may well continue into this weekend. Let me talk about the fixtures this weekend that we do have as well. I was saying, Bournemouth, Chelsea is one of them. The other big match is Man City and Leeds at 3:00 tomorrow as well. That's live on Sky Sports. That was a 2:00 kickoff for Saturday, but then they moved it to 3:00 to as well. The other big match, I think, was Aston Villa as well. Tottenham and Palace. That's a big London derby there. And then the 5:30 game is Liverpool and Brentford. And then on Sunday, it's Newcastle and Arsenal. A big clash there. Going to be a tricky tie, I think, for Arsenal. We're on form Newcastle as well. That's going to be very interesting to see how they can form there as well. West Ham, Manchester United as well. West Ham not had a little bit of bad run recently, but they're mainly safe so far. And then there's 3 matches on Bank Holiday Monday. It's sort of rare we get 3 matches on Bank Holiday Monday, but here we go. So Fulham Leicester is a significant one. That's at 3. In terms of the relegation bracket there. No one of significant for the relegation. Brighton and Everton at 5:30. That's live on BT. And then from 8:00, I think it's a really significant match actually. The bottom, Nottingham Forest against Southampton. Nottingham Forest and Southampton both in big trouble, by the way. So a match like this is going to be significant for their relegation chances as well. Southampton really need to win this match if they've got any chance of avoiding the drop potentially at the end of the season as well. And there's also Champions League matches next week as well. On the Tuesday, it's Real Madrid. I think it's Real Madrid against Man City as well. The first leg of the semi-finals there. It's a Milan derby on Wednesday. And in the Europa League, there's no British team in action, so it's going to be down to the Europa Conference League, where West Ham will take on AZ at home for their first leg as well. Looking ahead for that one.
That's all the football results, and that is the end of that little section on the Premier League then. Now it's time to talk about Formula One. Last week, we had the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. Sergio Perez took his second win of the season, and his second win, of course, at the Baku City circuit with a fine drive. Max Verstappen finishing second, and Charles Leclerc finishing third. Of course, Formula One off to Miami this weekend, where Nico Hulkenberg has already been getting FP1 after checking out a shot from Instagram of him just avoiding. I think the fire marshal had to come out there to help him. But yeah, Zach, what did you make to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and also looking ahead to this weekend's race in Miami?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of criticism for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The mixed feelings about the format of the Saturday. Saturday actually did bring some drama. You may have seen a bit of a tussle between George Russell and Max Verstappen in the sprint on Saturday. Max Verstappen particularly angry at George Russell for some of the defensive moves on lap 1, which meant that he had a hole in the side of his car. Lucky that he even raced on that one. I mean, that was very, very lucky for Max. But he finished third. I think was it second or third? I can't remember. Was it in the sprint race or something like that as well? But yeah, it was significant there as well. Sergio Perez, though, big victory over the weekend, dominant fashion. Once he got past Leclerc for pole position, and and for the race on Sunday, during the middle of the race, the Red Bull had spectacular more speed, more pace, more ability, and off they went into the wind as well. And it was Sergio Perez that was the one in front, winning the sprint and the race as well. Significant, obviously, result for Perez, only 6 points now behind Verstappen after 4 races in the championship. But this weekend we're at Miami. The home is the first of 3 American races this season as well, taking place near the Hard Rock Stadium. That's where the paddock is this season, rather than directly inside the Hard Rock Stadium, rather than sort of the outer edge of it as well. But yeah, it's going to be a prime time race. There are going to be a lot of celebrities on the grid. We're back to the traditional format as qualifying on the Saturday, race on the Sunday for this weekend as well. And yeah, like I said, it's going to be whether Red Bull's done upgrades of work further as well. Mercedes were fastest in first practice, though. Maybe one to watch out for potentially. Well, it may not be their true pace, but it's it's going to be. I think hopefully it's going to be probably a star-studded race. Whether they're going to have some star-studded action is going to be another thing. They've resurfaced the track this year. It was on an old surface that was rotting away last time round, so the whole track has been resurfaced as well, and so it should make for a bit more interesting strategy in terms of tyre wear, a bit more grip as well. They're going to be, they'll be easy on the tyres and all that sorts of things as well. And there may be rain on Sunday. Who knows? There's forecast for rain potentially, which could make the race quick, especially fun. Miami is a place well known for its occasional showers that you see out of nowhere and then come along. So I think it'll be glamorous Grand Prix, but whether it'll be glamorous on action or not remains yet to be seen.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Formula Miami Grand Prix takes place this weekend on Sunday. Moving on now to the Cup Series NASCAR action, where I did watch the race just before we went on air. Can confirm to you that it was Martin Truex Jr. taking his first victory of the season. By the way, his brother actually won the Xfinity race last weekend as well. That was Ryan Truex there winning the A-Game 200 there. But in the Cup Series, Ross Chastain finished second. I heard he had a collision with someone during that race, so I don't know who it was. Ryan Blaney third in the number 12 Ford. William Byron was fourth in the number 24 Chevrolet. Denny Hamlin was fifth in the number 11 Toyota. Christopher Bell in the number 20 Toyota sixth. Tyler Reddick seventh in the number 45 Toyota. Brad Keselowski eighth in the number 6 Ford. Chris Buescher ninth in the Ford, number 17 Ford. And Josh Berry 10th in the number 48. I believe that is Alex Bowman's car that he was racing around that track. There was also a big crash in the race for Joey Logano late on as well towards the end. Oh, Zach, it got to a point at Dover where a lot of drivers lost control or mistook the drag to basically drive around the track properly.
Yeah, it was called the Monster Mile for a reason. It certainly was a bit of a monster going around the mile, nevertheless. But yeah, I mean, it's a spectacular weekend for the Truex brothers in many ways. Ryan Truex won his race in Xfinity Series race on Saturday, and then Martin Truex won the race on Sunday. A Truex sweep out this weekend as well. But Truex won ahead of Chastain. Ryan Blaney was third, William Byron fourth. Hamlin was fifth, Christopher Bell sixth, Tyler Reddick seventh, Brad Keselowski eighth, Chris Buescher ninth, Josh Berry 10th. Good result for Josh Berry, I have to say as well. Coming for Alex Bowman, who's not obviously still out for a couple of weeks after the injury as well. But yeah, it got pretty good towards the end. There was we had a late caution. Truex got to good restart and managed to hold as well. I believe, if I remember rightly, he wasn't actually leading the restart because he was on fresher tyres, I believe. That allowed him to go ahead and to work his way through the field. I think it was Blaney or Byron that had the older tyres. Only took two. I think they only took 2 tyres at the pit stop versus 4. And obviously less grip. You have less grip on if you just take 2 than 4. But yeah, Truex managed to get use of the strategy, finish ahead of the field, and yeah, pretty much going ahead on that one as well. Now this weekend, NASCAR is at Kansas Speedway as well. It's a 1.5 mile sort of intermediate track as well. It's in the daylight. Obviously, I think the Truck Series races this weekend, right? It's going to be under the lights. But yeah, I suspect it'll be another mixed race potentially. That one could put up a few surprises. But yeah, Kansas Speedway this weekend as well. Looking forward to it. And also the Truck Series is also in action. The Xfinity Series is off this weekend as well, but I believe will be returning in the near future as well. Not this week. Maybe I think it's next week as well. So yeah, then next week, by the way, we'll be going to Darlington as well, which is quite a historic track in many ways. But they'll be going to Darlington as well. But this weekend we're mainly focusing on the Cup Series and the Craftsman Truck Series from Dover. Sorry, not from not from Kansas. Sorry, not Dover. That was last weekend. You know what I mean.
We also have this weekend as well the British Touring Car Championship heading to Brands Hatch Indy for rounds 4, 5, and 6 as well, guys, on the Coronation weekend for Charles III. That is the British Touring Car Championship this weekend. Just to confirm, last time out, it was Dan Camish and Tom Chilton that took the victories. Dan Camish winning race 1 and race 3. Tom Chilton winning race 2. Zach, what do you make to the British Touring Car Championship heading to Brands Indy this weekend? It's a big race for certainly everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see the British Touring Car Championship back last weekend as well. I've not been able to go catch much of it, but Dan Camish is obviously very familiar name, obviously in the field as well. I remember quite well, and he's come off to a flying start, quite frankly, as well. Going to get a good start for him in many ways as well. Really good stuff as well. And I noticed there was a certain guest there this weekend. You may have not been disguised himself. Lewis Hamilton was there supporting his brother Nicholas Hamilton as well. You may have seen on social media. But Lewis Hamilton came there disguised, interestingly enough, as something else. But yeah, fifth, sixth. I remember, didn't Nicholas Hamilton finish like in the top 10 in one of the races?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah, very impressive effort by Nicholas Hamilton as well. So yeah, I mean, mainly over the last few years, I remember Nicholas Hamilton not really doing much as well. Now this weekend, I should point out, Goodyear are debuting a new tyre this weekend as well, which should make it an interesting option. They're going to debut an option compound at Brands Hatch. I've not seen this option compound before. It's an interesting choice. It's regional options. It's a slick compound this weekend. A single slick tyre was able last season, and each run to give the teams a consistent pattern. The teams and drivers are requested to unanimously the Goodyear option to provide a wider range of race strategies. So there'll be a hard, medium, soft. Goodyear normally 2 for most rounds. Excluding the first round, the medium was used. The abrasive nature of the fucks mean they're hard available that weekend as well. But yeah, there's a new Goodyear option. Slick tyre has been introduced this weekend as well, just for different strategies and all that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see sort of the mix that they have during the weekend as well.
There'll be plenty of that, I'm sure, coming up as well. So basically with the tyre, it's soft tyre equals white sidewall, medium tyre equals yellow sidewall, and the hard tyre equals green sidewall, wet tyre equals the blue sidewall. They're the tyres that are available for this weekend's event at Brands Indy for the British Touring Car Championship. Now it's time for a little quick celebrity birthdays, a new addition to my show. Celebrity birthdays, going over some very famous birthdays today. Who is celebrating a birthday? Well, I know one person who is already celebrating their birthday today. I'm sure his name will be on the list. If he isn't, there's actually 2 singers today celebrating their birthdays, would you believe it? Before we do Charlie's good news, bit of birthdays prize, new edition. We've got Adele, 35, very famous pop singer, of course, known for a single Skyfall, for the James Bond films, the #1, also Hello, and many other songs. Henry Cavill, 40, is a movie actor. He actually starred in a film, actually, Justice League. Man of Steel, played Superman in that film, 40 years old as well. We also have another birthday as well. If this is on the list, Craig David, 42 today. Happy birthday to Craig David. I'm a huge fan of your music, by the way, as well. Of course, remembered very well for his 2000 debut studio album, Born to Do It. I believe he was only 17, 18 years old at the time when he released that. As well, 42 years old today. Also released the latest album, 22, last year, featuring many hits, including a hit with MNEK, Who You Are, and also featuring DNA as well. And that is it for your celebrity birthdays today. Zach, what do you make to the latest celebrity birthdays?
Well, happy birthday to a lot of people, especially everyone on that list as well. Some of them will have happy birthdays and others, but yeah, a good mix of interesting people on the birthday list this weekend as well. To all those who have celebrated May the 5th, your birthday, happy birthday.
Yeah, Craig David, of course, and Adele, both singers having their birthdays on the same day as well. We did speak last week about Craig David with his tours coming up, so very much interested. I'm sure we'll fill you in tonight on what's happening with all the latest news.
Got the pun in.
So yeah, certainly that's a little reference there to his first ever hit, "Fill Me In," or 16 as it's called, with the modern take of a Justin Bieber hit there as well. Now it's time for, of course, the Conversation Street now, where we talk about positive news, and of course we're going to theme it. Well, of course it's the coronation this weekend, of course, for King Charles. We're going to be talking this weekend about who's performing at the event. This Sunday, there is going to be a big weekend. We'll talk about in general the coronation weekend whilst we're here. So how is it going to work, obviously? Well, it's tomorrow that the official coronation of King Charles III will be done. There is going to be a big weekend, of course, for the coronation of His Majesty as well. It is absolutely massive. There is going to be so much here. I believe it's going to be around midday tomorrow, 10 o'clock, when we announce that get the official coronation of Charles III. Of course, after our late Queen unfortunately passed away last year, Queen Elizabeth II, unfortunately. But Charles will be crowned king. He'll be one of the oldest kings. You can watch it from pubs and many other places. Westminster Abbey will take centre stage where the king is crowned. UK time, service begin at 11, continue till 1. He'll arrive in a stagecoach with the Queen Consort Camilla as well. And on Sunday, a day of street parties will take place across the UK. And also, there will be a concert as well. Downton Abbey actor Hugh Bonneville will host the show. It will see artists such as Take That, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie both attending. Obviously, if you're watching American Idol this weekend, Ed Sheeran is going to be replacing Katy Perry. Also, another judge as well will be stepping in to fill in Lionel Richie's shoes. But yes, Katy Perry being replaced by Ed Sheeran on the latest edition of American Idol whilst they both perform at the coronation. The lineup will also see Italian opera singer Andrea Boccacelli, Welsh bass baritone Brun Teffel, singer-songwriter Freya Ridings. I'm sure she is also performing big music at the moment as well. And classic soul composer Alexis for French as well. The event is held in the grounds of the castle, which is expected to begin at 8 p.m. As well. At 2 p.m. CT, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Watch around 20,000 members of the public and invited guests broadcasted on radio stations. Monday as well, we'll see a special bank holiday for those in the UK, and it's set aside volunteering and tribute for the King's public lifetime service. As well, more than 1,500 charities will help out, including the Big Help Out.
I'm just going to refresh because I've...
Let's find that. We'll get that back on in a minute. 1,000 charities, 500 charities take place. When the Minister for Ceremony Events, including the coronation, Stuart Andrews, said it will shine a spotlight on power of volunteering to help out communities as well. So that is all of the latest additions there on the coronation. If you also go as well onto the latest papers, there will be a whole bunch of papers themed to the coronation, which we'll also do right now for you guys. We'll combine both segments together tonight to do a very special report on the coronation whilst we're here as well. So we're going to go straight in with the papers because it is coronation weekend, pretty much dominating that. If there's any other papers, we'll get you covered on them. Obviously, the Guardian does go, of course, with the local election paper, which, of course, is the crushing result for the Tories. There's also the Daily Telegraph showing you a post picture there of the new king in London today with some fans. The Times also goes with the King's coronation. Daily Express goes a Day of Destiny as its main headline. Financial Times weekend goes for the local elections, so in the Tories' losses. Daily Star goes for the King's coronation sausages. Irish Wolf found their named. Seamus stars in a historic parade up Mall. Daily Mirror goes his Day of Destiny, and the Daily Mail, goes for his Day of Destiny, and the Daily Mirror, the two dailies, of course. He will not only wear the crown, he will bear the weight of history. And Weekend also goes Charles III in battle to secure the future of the monarchy. Mostly papers themed to, of course, the coronation. A couple themed, of course, to crushing local election defeats for Tories. What do you make to the latest newspaper headlines?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprised what the papers are going for as well. I mean, I think that's the only bit of good news for the Tories, that most of them is not featuring their embarrassing defeat on the front pages. Some of them are, but some of them not. But let's talk about what we're going to expect tomorrow, this week, and throughout the weekend as well, before I sort of get onto the papers. And this is just sort of relevant to the papers discussion as well. Obviously the Telegraph, I come not to be served, but to serve. And that is in the true spirit of what King Charles is doing here, right? Okay. This weekend is going to be, or tomorrow, is going to be a big celebration about a new era of the monarchy. It's a new era, but like the same old monarchy. In many ways, the same old monarchy that we used to know, the same old monarchy we used to love, and everything like that, as well. And you can see that the popularity is not waned that much on King Charles. As well, compared to the late great Queen as well. The King's vows during the coronation will echo the words of his late mother, and that's absolutely right. The King Charles is one to sort of continue the spirit of what his mother brought as well to the nation in many ways, and this is just one way of doing it. As well, it's just been a continuity, and this is that sort of thing that the palace really wanted in many ways as well. That he wanted to be a continuity. He wanted to be the sort of the stable to the palace in many ways. And we've seen today he's been out greeting the crowds, meeting the people as well, just before the big day tomorrow, and in just true spirit, which has been just lovely to see. as well. But it's going to be a long day tomorrow. I mean, there's going to be lots of VIP guests. There's going to be special guests as well. There's going to be so much pantry as well. Slightly, little bit shorter route, procession route compared to when Queen Elizabeth got crowned back in the 50s. But it will still be historic in many ways as well, as the time says in the King's Day of Destiny. After 74 years of training, Charles III will be crowned at the ceremony caught on centuries of traditions. We're going to see that traditions as well in the modern era rather than 1950 as well. A funny picture, I have to say, they've chosen on their little background there as well, in many ways. But I think, yeah, it's going to be sort of like a once in a generation sort of thing that we see in many ways. We won't see for a long time. And the service is going to reflect that. We're going to see what all the usual activities that they did to the Queen as well in the 1950s, but in real life, in real terms of what it is today as well. And it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be a passionate display. It's going to be a weekend to celebrate and come together as friends and families, all that sorts of thing as well. But after service, it starts 11 o'clock, as to say. Then at 12 o'clock, and it will then be the Day of Destiny, as the Daily Express say. And then once at 12 o'clock, the crown will go on the King's head as well, to signal the fact that now he's been coronated, he will then become the official king of the country. His approval, his blessing will be given as well. And yeah, he will just start. His dedication of service will then start from there onwards as well, and in official duties as well. He's been in that way. As well, there will be special guests there, as the Daily Star, the comic front page, very suggests. There will be sausages, according to the Daily Star. Seamus, the Irish Wolfhound, will be set to participate in the parade for the King's coronation tomorrow. So it's not just going to be about people and items and businesses about it as well. It's going to be dogs, which is a very famous British tradition. Dogs. I love our dogs and everything like that as well, in many ways. Irish Seamus, the Irish Wolfhound, is going to be a key figure and going to be key on display at the coronation tomorrow as well. There'll be 130 million pints of beer, as we got a 3-day weekend of drinking ahead as well. 130 million pints of beer. The hospitality industry is going to be certainly gripping and wilding over that next few days, no doubt about it, as well. But yeah, it's going to be a day of destiny for what are now going to be, well, hopefully one day the future king, as the Daily Mail said as well. But it's going to be his day of destiny, and like the Mirror said as well on their front page, he will not only wear the crown, he'll bear weight of history and the hopes of the nation. Whilst there'll be those countries that sort of want to leave, hoping to have referendums and be part of the Commonwealth in the future and want to become a Republican, with forgetting that, they want to look to the future, to today, and what hope it brings to the royal family and the Commonwealth, that a new person is going to represent them, a new person is going to take the reins and represent the whole stage, the whole world, and the future and the peace in their country as well. And that's what the Daily Mail go for. The Eye Weekend sort of goes for a little different perspective as well. Obviously, the most of the public, still back the monarchy in many ways. We see it in the streets as well. But 52% favour it. It just seems a little bit light, it's a little bit tame in some ways. 23 Republican, but 1 in 4 become less supportive of the Charles III, according to polling for the Eye. Over 65 approve a lot, quite frankly. Young adults evenly split, though. Some of them really like the royal family, some of them don't. I mean, as the tendency, the younger you are, the more Republican people tend to be, as well, in terms of splits as well. William and Kate remain the most popular royals, 50 approval rating, not surprised. Probably gets warmer +2. The least popular is Andrew with -52, not surprisingly, because everyone thinks he's a bit of a pervert in some ways as well. But Andrew, one thing I have to say about this is Andrew is still less popular than Harry and Meghan. Now, obviously, Prince Harry will be at the coronation on Saturday. He's only going to be there for Saturday and he's going to fly back. But then for Meghan, he's not going to be there. I still think it's a lose-lose situation where if you hate Harry and Meghan, that you're going to complain that he's not going to be there. You're also going to complain that he will be there. No easy solution as well. in that front. But yeah, at least Harry's at least turned up to see his father being crowned for the future as well. And obviously the Guardian. Let me talk about the ones that talk about the election as well. There are some papers going on the election. Crushing result for the Tories. Is the front page for them as well. Sunak and pressure from his own parties, projecting put Labour course for power. Lib Dems believe they could become kingmakers after making gains. I do think as well. I think that's definitely an area to watch for in the future as well, where the Liberal Democrat gains overnight is going to be really, really crucial to watch out for in the sort of traditional conservative blue wall areas where they're affluent middle class as well, but where there's high prices and is expensive as well. And it's going to be interesting to watch whether those Lib Dem gains are permanent and could knock a Conservative out of power in many of these like really traditional Conservative seats. Especially watch out for the seats on the seaside and the sort of like the rural farmland areas as well, where they seem to be where they seem to be doing well in the future. That's sort of like the permanent move I can see as well in the future. And the Financial Times also goes for the same. Tory recommendation beginning off the crushing loss in local elections. Sunak's strategy crosshairs, Starmer hails key gains. Labour's shorts a decisive blow. They didn't. It looks like from the polling is that based on today's result, they didn't quite get majority Labour if this was translated into national elections, but they would still remain the largest party and be looking to form a government, whatever the result is at the next election, regardless as well. Another interesting thing today as well in the Financial Times as well, and I should point out that it's involved COVID. The COVID pandemic is now over. It's no longer a national emergency, according from the WHO. No, COVID is no longer a pandemic. It's no longer an emergency. That is official now. It's all over. Well, not all over, but mainly over. It took 3 years to get to this point where we finally do not have a COVID emergency. Now, obviously, since the latter stages, the countries have reopened, no restrictions, all that sort of thing. There are no pandemic restrictions, all that sort of things, all legislation gone. Life is pretty much back to normality. But after 3 hellhole years of being stuck at home, saving lives, and all that sort of thing as well, the WHO have decided to reach a point where COVID is no longer the serious threat it was. And now we can also look behind that and look to the future. And the work now begins on stopping the next virus that could come along any time in the future. This COVID was once in a generation sort of virus that kept us at home. Now it'll be time to work on stopping the next one that could potentially come along in our next generation as well. But yeah, unsurprisingly, the papers are all full of royalty and all that sort of thing as well. And that is what we're going to expect from them, because that is papers for the 6th of May. And I'm really looking forward to watching the coronation tomorrow.
Yeah, the coronation certainly will be a big part of the show. And obviously tomorrow, we hope everyone enjoys the day. Now, before we wrap the show up, I'm going to be talking about something important now, guys. I'm going to turn to some of my favourite things of the week. Number one was, of course, Lando Norris wearing a hoodie to the Miami Grand Prix this week. Obviously, I am going to touch on this very quickly. I know Lando did wear a hoodie this week. That was one of my big sort of highlights of the week. We're going to go over some highlights of the week now, actually. Lando Norris certainly wearing a hoodie in Miami. I mean, there's a picture of him on Formula One social media. If you've not seen it, I forgot to mention earlier on, Lando was at the track today. And Lando honestly loves his hoodie.
He does.
So much that he doesn't bother to even take it off when it gets hot. I commented on a social media post to say, "Oh, Lando doesn't feel the heat." That is like, I mean, here we go, guys. Okay, this is Lando, literally in a hoodie at Miami. I mean, here we go. Like, you got to see this. Like, Lando is brave to wear a hoodie in that weather. I mean, he loves it, doesn't he? He loves his hoodie so much. I bet Quadrant paid him a big deal to get that designed. McLaren certainly did. I'll say that for one thing. But yeah, Lando certainly loves his hoodie a lot. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. And also as well, on the subject of hoodies, Romford Town Centre have also announced a ban for people wearing hoodies in store to tackle crime that has been reported over the last few days as well. And also, my final bit tonight, I'm going to play for you a short video on how someone achieved a pretty huge landmark on completing a course. Now, it was someone called Blaze Gibson, who was a student studying the Level 1 carpentry course at South Essex College in Thurrock. I just want to play for you a quick video of how she achieved something big in her course and how she's inspiring young people to get involved. This is my story with Blaze Gibson.
My name is Blaze Gibson, and I was studying carpentry level 1. My main interest was because of DT. I started doing DT in about year 9, and I loved it. I loved doing the work aspect, the wood aspect of it, but I never actually knew about carpentry. I just loved working with the wood, and the teacher was so nice, and he let me do whatever I wanted because I was very good. But then, in about year 10, my brother-in-law actually said, "What about carpentry?" I was like, I didn't even think about that. I was like, yeah, I gave it a shot. But my family have always been people who make stuff. We have a barn in France and we're renovating it. So I've always worked around that. So I've always been interested in it. So I thought I'd give carpentry a shot, and I love it. First of all, when I did the open evening and I came to the workshops, I was like, wow, I saw everyone's work. I was like, I just want to do that. I can't wait. It was like May, and I saw the work, and I was like, oh, I want to do it already, but I had to wait until the end of school. I like doing workshops the best. Where I've excelled so quickly, I've been making stuff like staircases, and that was what I didn't realise I was doing that stuff. With Mark's taken me so far, I've been able to do stuff that I didn't expect I was doing. Yeah, so that was staircase, I didn't expect I would be able to do that. I've done it. Mark's an amazing teacher. He helps me with everything. Like if I'm not sure about anything, he'll go through the steps with me. He's good at, so I'm clear about what I'm doing. But where I've done everything in level 1, it's like, wow, I didn't expect I would be this good. So when I joined level 2 stuff, it's very rewarding actually. And I realised that everyone else, I don't want to seem rude, but it's just past everyone else. I didn't realise how good I was. My mum and my dad are so proud of me. They always knew that I was very creative with my hands, but where I've actually started this and I'm actually doing something towards my future, and Mark, who's given me feedback, and I've told them what Mark said, they're just like, wow, I'm always so proud of you. I can't believe you've come this far. They're very supportive. With carpentry, there's so many different directions I could go into, but the main focus I like the idea of set building, behind movies and stuff. That was when I look behind, watching movies and I watch behind the scenes and the stuff that they do and what they make. I want to be able to watch a movie and think, I made that. That's so cool. I always compare the different jobs. So carpentry is so it's with your hands, whereas you could be doing a job in an office on a computer. But carpentry is so creative. You can go all different directions. There's all different things you can do. You just make what you want, and you can be successful with it. It's not hard. It's just easy, and it's so fun.
Thank you there to Blaze Gibson for sharing with us that story. I have to say, thank you to South Essex College as well for allowing Blaze to talk to all of our lovely viewers here about it. I will certainly be trying myself to do one in the future. But yeah, Zach, what do you make to all the latest news, obviously particularly with Blaze's story and also in general other news stories that have caught your eye in the last week?
Yeah, I mean, it's been yeah, that was a lovely bit from Blaze as well. I have to say as well, it was really lovely piece and an inspiring bit of information that she sort of gave out there as well. There's a lot of ways to sort of get into things, and that's one way of doing it as well. Fair play to Blaze as well. In terms of stuff that I've sort of gathered in this week as well, there's not really much that took me to interest today. But one thing that did take that did take some interest to me actually was the rugby leagues, the rugby league today. So obviously it's different to rugby union. But now I want to show you something, right? Okay, I'm obviously not gonna really be able to show it on my computer because obviously it's a little bit slow. But I can get it up on my computer, but I'll just have to do it on my phone. I'll explain what's happened here. Typically when you train for a rugby match, everything like that, do warm up, it's all pretty peaceful. Not today, and not today at all. I think it became a little less peaceful for when you're doing the warm up today. The Wigan Warriors, I think it was the Wigan Warriors or something like that. I can't remember who it was, but there was. Here we go. This is the Dragons, the Catalan Dragons, against the Bulls. And what happened was there was an actual bull that invaded a horse bull that ended up invading the pre-match warm up today. I caught a lot of people by surprise. You wouldn't believe, I have to say, some of the stuff that happened, really, to be fair. If I take this the other way, and I don't know if you can see this here, but there was a bull that invaded the pitch before the match, and in a shocking scene, I honestly can't believe what happened here. It's buffered a little bit. But I can't believe an actual animal made its way onto the warm-up to a rugby league match. I'm not seeing animals that often, but I'll tell you something. I guess that was a bit of a surprise for anyone, expecting quite a routine warm-up and expecting a bull onto the pitch today. I know the Dragons seem to have an extra player, but I don't think it's expecting to have that sort of player on a pitch before warm up today. So that was my sort of interesting thing that I saw today, in terms of what I've noticed.
I think as well, before we finish, I'll do mine. Couple of them. Number one, both of them are Extinction Rebellion protesters this week.
Oh yeah,
who get my nomination for. Well, there's a new segment launching now, guys. It's basically going to be called Stories of the Week, where we basically show you some stories that happened. This week's one of the biggest stories of the week was Extinction Rebellion activists causing problems. This was in, I think, Sweden or somewhere. An Extinction Rebellion protester gluing himself to a political debate podium. The presenter there, standing there saying "act together" in French. Apparently standing there, gluing himself to a podium. I mean, are you campaigning for climate change or are you campaigning for a debate? Honestly, I'm absolutely full of laughter because that is so stupid. I don't know why he done that. My message to you is that's not a safe way of protesting. And also as well, Barclays AGM as well got targeted by climate protesters again. Extinction Rebellion, Fossil Free London and Climate Choir actually stood inside the Barclays AGM today and apparently sung to Spice Girls to disrupt the Barclays meeting. Yes, better than blocking roads, but still not effective ways of protesting. Zach, what do you make quickly to these stories before we wrap the show up?
God almighty. It's just a bit sad, quite frankly. Imagine going around spoiling people's life like that. I mean, nobody cares about your silly, stupid antiques. Would care if it was just you were just doing the messaging and not the antiques, then we probably would care a little bit more. But we don't care when it's like antiques like that. Go away. We're not interested in that sort of thing. I care about climate change, certainly about that. But when it's crap like that, I can't, it ruins the experience for me, and it makes me not want to support the actions that we're supposed to be taking. So well done, sort of Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion. Your boys are doing well to put us off from supporting policy. Well done.
We can surely say that for one thing. So that's that for guys. We'll be rounding up some more hilarious stories of the week next week. Trust me, it's not quite like You've Been Framed, but it's certainly some stories that we will find very interesting. We'll share them for you next week. But that's it for the Tonight Show podcast with me, Charlie, and my co-host, Zach James. We'll be back again next weekend for more great action as we round up all the latest papers. And for everyone, guys, enjoy the King's coronation. Thank you for listening and take care.